Mm. Mm. I love this beer. It's so good. My name's Hayley and I am a brewer at Siren Craft Brew. Today I'm going to tell you about Serendipity. It all sort of started because I was following a woman on Instagram who is a beer writer, and I just really liked the way that she wrote about beers. She has a really nice way of talking about the flavours of the beers, and she really sort of delves into things so that you imagine things from like your past or your childhood or whatever. And that's something I'm not that good at. So I really got into reading all of her reviews. And then I would start buying the beers that she was reviewing, the ones that she said were really good. And then I realised that she lived in Reading, and I was like, oh, maybe we could be like friends one day, that'd be cool. But like, I didn't think much of it. And then just like by complete random chance, one maiden day, there was a new guy, JD, had just started on the can line. And so I got chatting to him, and I was like, oh yeah, we should swap socials and stuff. And he's like, oh no, I don't do that. My wife does all of that stuff. So he said, oh, actually, yeah, she follows you. She really likes, watching what you do around the brewery and, seeing what it's actually like and stuff. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Fair enough. And then he showed me like who it was. And then it just turned out that it was this woman that I'd been following. And I was like, what? No way, is that your wife? Like, I've been following her for ages. And then we sort of like got chatting through JD. And it was just kind of, it was like really weird because we were both just like, bit like starstruck by the other person, but also thinking like that we were the one that sort of found the other one cool, and there was the one that was not cool. So like she was just like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever, like you're an actual brewer. And I was like, no, I'm not, just like pretend. And meanwhile I was like, yeah, but you're this like famous beer writer person, you've got like loads of followers and everyone loves what you say. And she was like, yeah, I don't know why, it's just mad, I don't know who these people are. So anyway, then through that, we just like kept chatting and stuff. And we were saying about we really need to do something where we can both benefit from now knowing each other and having opposite skills. So we were thinking, how can we do something where she can learn more about actually brewing, and therefore she'll know more about the beers that she's reviewing. And how can I learn more from her about sort of how to describe what the beers taste like, and enjoying the beers more from the customer's point of view. So we're like, okay, surely the best thing that we can do for that is to make a beer together. And at the time it was like October last year. And after we chatted, I went away and thought about it. And I was like, oh, if we like get this thing rolling pretty quick, we could maybe get something going by International Women's Day, which would be really cool, because then not only does it help me and her, but it also might help other women within Siren or other women within the industry, because then it will show how we can all help each other. So then we approached Sean with the idea. He thought it was awesome, and so then it was just a case of telling everyone else it was happening. Not taking no for an answer. So yeah, thankfully everyone was like, yeah, let's go for it. That sounds great. Like, see what you can come up with. So we decided we should like meet up a few more times. see what we had in common and sort of come up with an idea from there. Well, I've got to be honest, we did spend a lot of our time just like drinking beer and excitedly chatting and not really coming up with any ideas. So anyway, I'll get my beer. I'm getting dry here. I need to stop chatting. Let's see how it pours. Look at that. Perfect. Almost feel like a professional. Stay there, you. Stay. Look at that. Yum. Smell. Oh, yummy. So that head settled and I don't dip my nose in it. So we got chatting mostly about like that we wanted the beer to be reflective of both of us, and how could we make sure there was parts in it that would reflect both of what we enjoyed and what we were about. And so we just started by talking about, well, what do you really like? What, you know, that kind of thing. And there just happened to be like loads of similarities between us. So we both like holidays in Belgium. So we got chatting about that, about the beers and their strengths. Then we were chatting about the foods and the chocolate and all that sort of stuff. And so we had like that sort of thing in our mind about all those things that we enjoyed that were similar. And then I was asking her about, well, what are your favourite beers? What kind of things would you like to bring out in a beer? And she said one of her favourite beers from Siren was Candor. So then we got on to thinking about, okay, so you want like something chocolatey, like something luxurious and like that kind of feel. And then, how's the head doing? Yeah, good. Let's have a go. Oh, yummy. I love this beer. It's so good. I know I'm biased, but genuinely, this is really good. It always makes me smile every time I try it. Yeah, so then what happened? Oh yeah, so talking about our favourite beers, and so she was saying about beers that she likes from other breweries, and she said she always likes beers with tonka, that kind of thing. So we're like, okay, we've got something that's chocolatey, something that's maybe got tonka in it. And then she was saying about, I'd really like to make a white stout because I don't understand how they're made. So yeah, that's fair enough. A lot of people don't understand how they're made. So that's another sort of challenge to think about. So like, yeah, okay, we can do something like that. And then we're talking about other beers that we both enjoyed, and we're talking about fruit beers and stuff, especially like with the Belgium influence, a lot of their really good beers have fruit in. So we're talking about that. And so at that point, we just had this weird Frankenstein beer in our heads that was just like something chocolatey with some fruit in there that's a white stout that has tonka, and it was just like, how are we actually going to make this into a beer? So we kept chatting and stuff, and then I'd gone away and came back next time we were chatting, and I said like, have you ever tried ruby chocolate? And she was like, no, what is it? So I said like, well, in Belgium there's this one company that make a chocolate called ruby chocolate, and they call it like the fourth chocolate, so like white, dark, milk, and then ruby. And I said like, it's pretty rare, they're the only people that make it, and it's rare because they make it from the ruby cacao. which is rare in itself. They're the only ones that are able to grow it. And I was like, it's really quite unique because when you taste the chocolate, they don't add fruit to it or anything, but it has this mix of flavors somewhere between sort of white chocolate and like red fruits. But also like it's not like a brown or a white, it's actually ruby coloured. So, and I could see the penny dropping as I'm explaining it to her, and she's like going, hang on, this sounds just like the beer we were trying to create. And I was like, exactly, it sounds just like it. So then we sort of had this thought of, well, if all of these things that we like in a beer are also within this chocolate that I've really enjoyed from Belgium, maybe that can be sort of my influence and my introduction towards that side of things. And it gives us something to pin what we're aiming our flavours on and stuff. So, yeah, so then we decided, right, okay, we're going to make a white stout that emulates ruby chocolate. But it actually then won't be white, it'll be ruby. And so then we had to think about, okay, how are we going to make it the right colour? How are we going to make it the right flavour, the right feel? So we started off with the basics, okay, how are we going to make a white stout? What do we need? So obviously we were thinking like lots of oats because we want the mouthfeel, want it to be smooth and thick. But we also wanted it to be really, really pale at first because whatever colour we added to it, we didn't want that to just be muddy. So started with a really, really pale base beer. And then because we talked about Candor, which is one of the beers that we did a really long extended boil on, and that's how we got some of that really thick, like luxurious taste from Candor, we decided we wanted to do that as well. So we actually did a 5-hour boil on this beer to make sure we got loads of like complex sugars that wouldn't ferment and would stay within the beer to give us that really thick, luxurious flavour and feel. So did that. Then we played around with how can we actually make it taste and feel more like stout. So at Siren we use the spin bot. So you may or may not have heard of spin bot before. We use it quite a lot to add like coffee or all sorts of different things. But for this beer, we used it to add loads and loads of cacao nibs, like shed loads, more than I've ever seen in any other beer ever. So that was to obviously give it its chocolatey taste, but also to give that sort of bitter, stouty side to it. And then to round that off, we also added a load of vanilla, a really small amount of tonka because it really travels like far. I think there's only like 250 grams of tonka, but you can taste it in the beer and it's delicious. So did that, and then to bring out the actual colour and that fruitiness that ruby chocolate has, we went with sweet cherries, so black cherries that are sweet as opposed to the sour ones, because that seemed to give the right type of fruit tang without being like overly sour or overly sweet, and would also give us a really good colour. So we added loads of cherry puree to it. It did look like a crime scene when we did it, but that's all right. Most of it's in the beer. And then for a bit more colour, we also added a bit of hibiscus to it, just to like bring through more of the pinkiness. And then to round all of that off and make it what we wanted to be as far as sort of how a stout should look, we decided to put it through Nitro for the can. So yeah, I think that's the whole story. Yeah, so there we go. There's the beer in all of its glory, and it's a delight. I hope you enjoy it as much as me. Maybe you won't, but hopefully you do. Give it a go.